I have a confession to make. I don't think I actually want to finish my book backlog, also known as TBR. I say I do, I complain about it, I organize it, I make lists about it, but somehow it never gets smaller. And I think that's not an accident. In fact, I don't even believe the backlog is meant to be completed. I would even go as far as saying that the desire to complete it is part of the problem. Because if finishing our unread books was actually the goal, or even possible, like a real achievable goal, most of us would have probably done it by now. And yet, every year the backlog grows, not because we're lazy, not because we don't love reading, but because something deeper is happening. The reason I stumble upon this idea is because in my own life, there is always people bringing this to my attention. Why do I keep buying more books if I haven't finished yet reading the ones I already own? And my response usually is, it's just never enough. That got me thinking, why? Why do we feel guilty about unread books? Why are we obsessed with finishing? Why do we keep buying more if that is the case? And why do I believe that our book backlog is doing emotional labor for us? Hi, my name is Diana and welcome back to my channel if you're new here. If you don't know me, I like to talk a lot about books, interior design, beauty, and all sorts of things cozy, really, or whatever comes to my mind, actually. And I have strong opinions about this topic. I am an avid reader myself, a collector of books, so I really wanted to answer this for myself. I don't even know how many books. I once counted them and I forgot, but it's probably over 1,000, which might not sound like a lot, but it is a lot for a studio apartment like mine. That's why we're here today, to answer this big question that probably you have also asked yourself at some point. Grab a drink, your beverage of choice, a coffee in my case. Have you seen this cute little mug? How cute it is? And it actually is very little. Did I put milk in this? Ah, yes, I did. I have a Dory memory. In any case, let's jump right into it. So there's this idea, right, that we all avid readers have, that is, one day I'll reach the end. One day I will look at my shelves and think, I'm done. And then what? Suddenly you will become cultured, at peace with yourself, perhaps? We imagine this version of ourselves that is disciplined, it's focused, and not constantly distracted by new releases and pretty covers. Guilty as charged. But here's the problem. The moment we finish one book, we add 3 more to the pile. And deep down, I think that finishing the backlog wouldn't give us what we think that it would. You see, when we buy books, we're not just buying stories. We're buying a future version of ourselves. We're buying time. We're buying space. A version of ourselves that has a life together. This version of me reads very slowly. She annotates. She drinks tea. Not so much coffee, perhaps. She has a type of personality that allows for long reading sessions without deciding in the middle of a chapter that she wants to deep clean her kitchen. This future version of us wakes up on a Sunday morning, makes coffee, sits down, and reads for 3 hours straight. She doesn't check her phone, she does no spiral. I don't know her personally, but I keep financially supporting her. So there's that. And so the backlog becomes this quiet promise. One day, I will have the capacity for this. Finishing it would mean admitting that day might never come, or that it has already passed and it was not exactly the way you expected it to be. I think we need to talk about the fact that books are one of the only things that you can buy endlessly without being judged for it, mostly. They are the most socially acceptable thing to overconsume, if you think about it. If anything, you're praised for it. Buying books isn't seen as overconsumption, it's seen as being cultured, thoughtful, and deep. We don't say, I spend money because I was overwhelmed. We say, I'm investing in myself. It's self-growth. It's self-care, which is very convenient, if you ask me. So when life feels empty, out of control, or overwhelming, we just buy a book. It feels like you're doing something good for yourself, even if you never open it. Yeah. The guilt doesn't come per se from buying the book. It comes later when it joins the backlog. Man, at some point, the backlog stops being a pile of books and starts being a psychological profile. Because think about it, nobody's backlog is random. You can really tell a lot about someone just by looking at their pile of books that they have on their shelves. Fantasy they bought during an escapism phase. Non-fiction they bought during a new me phase. Classics they bought during an identity crisis. I have lots of classics. My shelves are basically a timeline of who I thought I was going to become. And here's the thing, finishing the backlog would mean closing those versions of yourself. And maybe just maybe, we're not ready to do that just yet. I always say this: buying books and reading books are two very different hobbies. And I will not say which one I like most, because that would probably be questionable, even for myself. As we established, buying books is more about hope. It's who you could be, what you might feel. It's the version of you who has time and focus and emotional stability and many free rainy afternoons. Reading, on the other hand, requires a commitment. It asks something from you: your attention, your energy, your emotions. Buying books happens when you're optimistic, when you believe in your future emotional availability. Reading, on the other hand, happens when you're actually willing to be alone with those thoughts, with silence, with feelings. So buying books is about possibility, and reading the books is about presence. And sometimes we don't actually want that. Sometimes we just want the comfort of knowing that the story is there waiting for us. Sometimes all we want is possibility. Alright, so we talk about finishing our backlog like it's a moral achievement. Like once we read everything we own, we'll finally be allowed to relax or something. But that pressure doesn't come from reading. It comes from the productivity culture that snuck into our hobbies very quietly. God damn you. Suddenly our backlog is not a collection anymore, it's a failure pile. Which is wild, because reading is supposed to be one of the things that we do without optimizing. And I speak for myself as well. I'm the first to write down reading as an achievement and will feel pressure to cross it off my to-do list. And then, inevitably, I will feel a disappointment once I was not able to do so because of that very same self-imposed pressure. It's ridiculous. Well, crap. Oh, look. Somewhere along the way, reading stopped being something we did because we wanted to, and it started being something we measure. And now, we feel like it's something we're constantly behind on. We track pages per day, books per day, reading goals, reading slumps, reading challenges, minutes. Why? We talk about our backlogs like they're unfinished homework. Come on. But stories aren't meant to be optimized or conquered. You're not supposed to win at reading. Instead, they're meant to be felt at your own pace. We are all very familiar with the self-imposed challenge of, if I don't read this many books this year, I failed as a reader. Fail at what? Enjoy stories? See how silly it sounds? And the backlog turns into evidence. Proof that you're not disciplined enough, focused enough, consistent enough, which again is wild to me, because reading is literally supposed to be the opposite of that. Instead, we make it feel like it's just another task on our list. It pains me to say, but we also cannot ignore the internet's role in this. Reading used to be private, now it's just content. And again, guilty as charged, but you know, the aesthetic shelves, the color-coded spines, the annotated pages, the monthly wrap-ups, the 20 new releases you suddenly really need to read right now. Otherwise, the world will implode or something. And suddenly it becomes algorithmic. It's something you must keep up with. You're not just behind on your goals anymore. You're behind on the conversation. So you buy the book, not because you want, but because otherwise you will feel left out. And owning the book becomes a way of participating, even if reading comes later. Or never. Now, I want to be very clear about something. None of this has turned me into somebody who never buys books again. Clearly. Just take a look at my bookshelves. They keep growing. But the difference is that I'm not confused anymore about why. I'm not pretending that every purchase I make is noble, okay? And I'm not shaming myself for it either. Understanding the system does not mean you opt out of it completely. It's as simple as that. What it really means, though, is you stop internalizing the blame and the fact that it will no longer be a source of shame. It's no longer proof that you're undisciplined or you're failing. It's a record of your curiosity, poetically said, and of the versions of yourself that you care enough about to imagine them. And simply put, I refuse to turn something that brings meaning into my life into something that makes me feel behind on. Period. So what if the goal isn't completion? What if it is to trust yourself? Trust that you will read what you need when you need it. Trust that curiosity is enough to stay open, to keep choosing stories that meet you where you are now, not where you thought you would be when you bought them. And most importantly, in my opinion, to let go of the guilt attached to books that no longer fit who you are. They belong to another version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore, and that's okay. Forcing yourself to read them out of guilt doesn't honor the story nor you. Some books will wait years, some books will never be read, and some books, you know, They just want to wait until you are a completely different person. And that doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that you're alive, that you're changing, you're still becoming. I think unread books function a bit like an emotional insurance for us. I think it feels comforting to know that no matter what happens, there's always another world we can escape into, another romance, another fantasy, another version of life where everything feels more magical, meaningful, more intense perhaps. And if I actually finish my unread books, that safety net would disappear. Finishing it would mean confronting life without that buffer. I think also part of the guilt around the backlog is the grief, if that makes sense to you. And when I say grief, I mean grief for all the lives that we won't live and that we thought we would have time for, as well as the versions of ourselves that we thought we would become. Our backlog is pretty much a proof of how much we wanted time and how little we actually got of it. And maybe that's why it's so hard to let go of. So no, I don't think I will ever complete my book backlog. And yes, I will keep buying more books, just with a lot less guilt. Also, you can send this video to the next person and ask you, do you really need more books? I got you. Let me know in the comments though. Do you want to finish your backlog? Or do you secretly like knowing it will never end? I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.